Good morning, everyone. My name is Queena. I'm from batch 2024, and I will be your MC for today's session. With introduction out of the way, how are you all doing? Have you eaten your breakfast today? I hope you have, because this is going to be a long day today. But before we start, let me remind you some of the rules during this session. First, please remember to open your camera and use virtual background. Second, please rename your username with name _ major _ class code. Third, mute your microphone. And lastly, save your questions for the Q&A sessions. So moving on to the next segment, let's begin the session with an opening prayer. I will be leading in my Muslim faith and everyone can follow with their own belief. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Terima kasih Allah karena karunia-Mu kami dikumpulkan hari ini dengan kondisi sehat dan berbahagia. Kami meminta kepadamu akan kelancaran acara pada hari ini. Semoga acara ini bermanfaat tidak hanya untuk saat ini, tapi untuk kedepannya juga nanti juga. Amin. Okay, since it's still early in the morning over here, it wouldn't be fun if we just start with the session directly, right? So I would like to invite my friend to host an ice-breaking session. Everyone, please welcome our game master, RC.
Good morning, everyone. It's Megan, RC, and as usual, before we start the main session, let's play some ice-breaking games to wake you guys up a little bit, because I don't know, maybe you guys are still too sleepy right now. So yes, Daryl, please share screen.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to wait a little bit. Yes, so today's game is pretty simple. It's basically just guessing what the picture is about. And yes, you can answer it in the chat box. Okay. Please wait a little bit, yeah, guys. It's okay, it's here. The first question, we can go right to the first question. Okay, whose thumb is this? Now it looks, okay, it looks a little bit weird, right? You may be wondering like, oh my God, how did it become like that? Okay, someone said it's Fabian. Oh, two people said Fabian's thumb. How about the others? Are you sure? How do you know? Is it Fabian's thumb? Oh, he told you guys one time. Okay. Okay, what's the answer? Whose thumb is this? You can click next, Daryl. That is one looking thumb, yes. Yes, it is Fabian's thumb. You guys may have question about his thumb, and I don't know, you can ask him privately. He's available 24/7. Ask him anytime, guys. Okay, next question. What animal is this? What do you guys think? Eagle, hawk, some kind of a bird, owl. What else? How about the others? I only see like 4 answers right now. Bird species for sure, owl. Yes, this is the answer. It's a white lion.
Itu dibuka aja, Mak.
It's a white lion.
Biar pada.
Okay. Next question. The third question. Let's go. Okay. It's a little bit lagging. Just bear with us. We're going to the third question. Who is this? Look at that eye. The picture is it's so pixelated, but you know it's an eye, right? Whose eye is this? Friska, what? Are you sure? How do you know? Is it Chandrifo's again? Is it Chandrifo eye? Are you sure? Look at this beautiful eye. Whose eyes is this? Okay, let's go. Let's go to the answer. Is it my eye? No, it's not my eye. Okay. Okay. It's lagging here. I'm so sorry, guys. Yep. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, yes. It's Priska's eye. Yes. How do you guys know? I think you guys know Priska too well right now. You can even guess it just by looking at the eye. Okay, next question. Now, what animal is this? Owl. Are you sure? How about the others? Squidward. Nice guess. Dinosaur. Gorilla. A cat. SpongeBob ape. Okay, let's reveal the answer. A bee? It's not a bee. It's a dog. Yay! A good-looking dog. Okay, let's go to the next question. Nah, what animal is this? Fish. Nice guess. Nice guess. Yeah. Fish, bunny, bear. Yeah. Worm. Okay. Probably. Yeah. Cat. Maybe. Donkey, because there's see. Okay, I see you, Kyla. Okay, Daryl, you can reveal the answer to us. It's a shark. Yay! It's a shark that can live inland, on land. Okay, next question. I think next question is the last question. Here we go. Nah, who is this? Look at that lips. Whose lips is that? It's so pixelated again. Yo, what? Y'all are saying Daryl? How do you know? Is it Daryl lips? Let's go. Let's see the answer. My lips? Priska, no. My lips doesn't look like that. Okay, let's reveal the answer. Daryl, please. Yes, it is our freshman leader, Daryl. Yay, congrats to all of you who got it right. Yeah, I think that's it, guys. Is it? That's it for our game today, I think. Yeah, thank you all for participating in this game. Hope you guys had fun. And yes, that's it from me. Back to the MC. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, RC, for the ice-breaking game. I hope that woke you guys up and got your brains running to start up our sessions. So with that out of the way, let's get into the main meat of this session. If you guys remember our session with Pa Marco, we know that we are going to learn academic English. So our first session for today will be about searching, reading, and writing skills. Today's topic will be discussed by Mr. Mark Maloney. And since Mr. Mark is here, the spotlight is yours, Mr.
Thank you very much. Okay, can you make me co-host, please?
You're already the co-host, sir?
Okay. Okay, so sorry about the technical problem there for a second. First of all, I'm going to ask you all to identify what is your main interest. Are you interested in watching TV like Netflix? Are you interested in the internet like memes? Are you interested in keeping fit? Are you interested in Indonesian culture, maybe dance, maybe music? Are you interested in celebrities? Are you keeping up with the Kardashians? Are you interested in listening to music, making music? Are you interested in making movies or photography? Or are you interested in something else completely? I like original answers, so please put into the chat box what your main interest in life is. Money, nice. Literature, well, you are IB students, so money's good. Keep them coming, please. Netflix, furniture making, oh, that's interesting. Disney Plus, good. Netflix, Disney Plus, and music, sports. I'm interested in making food. Okay, I'm interested in eating food. So if you could send some my way, please, Calvin. Export imports, wow. Pro video game scene, cool. I've just got the chair out of the games. Any more? Netflix, Disney Plus, fitness and music. Wow, you've got a busy life, Queena. Crypto. Karam, are you into Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin? Yes, Doge. Okay, good. Okay, some good answers there. And I like the fact that some of your answers, music and crypto, but I haven't been active. Okay, some of your answers there were original, and I really like original answers. The reason why I like original answers is because if you're thinking for yourself, you're not copying somebody else. And that really is a big deal when it comes to academics. So today we're going to look at different ways to prevent yourself getting caught plagiarizing. So we're going to look at originality. We're going to look at what is plagiarism. And I know it's a dry topic, but it's something that maybe will bite you later on in your academic career. So we need, the first thing that we do for this session is to talk about plagiarism because it is super important. Okay, so plagiarism, what it is and what you can do about it. So fingers on your keyboards, please. Another question for you. I would like you to identify as fast as possible, who are these ladies? Okay, so I'm going to show you two ladies, very famous ladies, and I want to see who can tell me as quickly as possible who they are. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, getting some very fast answers here. Oprah Winfrey? No. Michelle Obama, yes. Melania, yes. Okay, good, good, good. You're all Trump and Obama's wife. Okay, some interesting titles there. Okay, great stuff. So you know who they are. And the reason why I'm asking you about this is because these ladies have an interesting connection, not just the fact that they were in the White House with their husbands. Can anybody else tell me what the connection is between Melania and Michelle Obama? Melania plagiarized Michelle's speech. Thank you, Belle. You've just absolutely answered my question. And it's kind of a big deal. You think that maybe you copy somebody, you'll never get caught. But what if the entire newspapers, the entire internet of the world, they catch you and they publicize it and your reputation is shot? Well, that's potentially what can happen in academia. You publish a paper and you say, this belongs to me, this is my information. And then suddenly somebody in maybe Botswana says, actually, I wrote that first. And then your reputation is damaged, BINUS's reputation is damaged. If I'm your lecturer, maybe my reputation is damaged. So there's a lot of reputational damage just from copying something. And Melania, the whole world was laughing at her for a day. And that's not a good look if you're supposed to be a glamorous first lady. So here's the speech that Melania said, followed by, now if you look at the highlighted section, Melania, her words are really quite clear. Then you go to Michelle Obama, and you'll see that the two are really the same thing. So it's not as if she chose one or two words, she chose phrases, she chose a big chunk, and she copied it. Let's have a look at the chat. What a shame, indeed, indeed. Okay. So plagiarism. We're going to look at different types of plagiarism, the consequences of plagiarism on campus, avoiding plagiarism, and support available to help you avoid plagiarism. Now, on campus, one of my main roles is I'm the admin of Turnitin, and Turnitin is software that detects if your papers have stolen from other papers or if they've copied from other papers. So it's my job really to be the Sherlock of plagiarism. My job is to find out if you've copied and then what do we do about that. So I would like to meet you in my academic English classes and we have fun together, but I don't want to meet you when we talk about you have plagiarized. So there's happy Mark, then there's unhappy Mark, and I don't want you to meet unhappy Mark. So what is plagiarism? Using someone else's idea, passing them off as your own. And unfortunately, we can plagiarize without meaning to. We can forget to say, this came from Michelle Obama. And it doesn't really matter whether we forget or whether we do it intentionally. They're both treated absolutely the same. So if you accidentally plagiarize, the university will not listen to you saying, it was an accident, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. They will treat you just the same as if you did actually mean to. So there's lots of different kinds of plagiarism. And the first is sham paraphrasing. And this is where you copy word for word. And then you represent it as if you've paraphrased it. You represent it as if you've changed the words around and made it your own. Then we have illicit paraphrasing. And that's when we don't put in any acknowledgement of the source. We have other plagiarism, which is material copied from another student's assignment with the knowledge of the other student. So this is, in Bahasa Indonesia, you guys would talk about kolusi, and this is when you're colluding with somebody else, and you're both, maybe you're an IB and somebody else is in finance, and you both hand in the same paper. Well, that's going to be caught by Turnitin. So all of your work has to be your own work. Verbatim copying is material copied verbatim from text. Sometimes we find the perfect sentence and we want to put it into our essay. We always have to say, these perfect words are coming from somebody else. And to do this, we will use quotation marks. So we'll use quotation, sentence, quotation, open up brackets, and then we'll say, this came from Smith, comma, 2021, close brackets. Now that we've acknowledged our source, we're cool. Then we've got recycling, which is the same idea as before, where we're taking one paper and using it twice. In a university as small as BINUS International, I know there's 2 campuses, but we all talk to each other. There's not very many lecturers to go around, all of you, and we're all friends with each other. We all talk to each other. So if I see a paper in my class and I think, this looks like an accounting paper, then I'll go to the accounting lecturers and I will say, did you get this essay from this student? And they will say, yes. And I will say, bye-bye from BINUS. And you will have to tell your parents what happened. Ghostwriting is when you pay somebody else to write a paper for you. It's very common nowadays. And one of the reasons why I'd warn you not to use ghostwriters is once we hear your voice in class, we know your standard of English. So if your standard of English is here and you write a paper that is here, we know there's a difference. If you go suddenly from singing like, and suddenly you become a pop star, we know the difference. Same with writing, your voice changes. So usually ghostwriters are native speakers and most of you are second language speakers, so we can tell the difference. Finally, purloining is an assignment copied from another student's assignment without that person knowing. So purloining is just a nice way of saying stealing. And essentially all plagiarism is stealing, but purloining is perhaps the worst because you're intentionally going out there and saying, haha, I'm going to steal Fabian's paper. I'm going to steal Ika's paper. I'm going to take somebody else's work and say, this is mine. So what's considered plagiarism? Plagiarism at BI. And I would like Abrar, are you there?
Yes, sir.
I would like you to read out the plagiarism at BI statement, please.
All right. Plagiarism occurs when the work of another person or persons is used and presented as one's own, unless the source of each quotation or piece of borrowed material is acknowledged with an appropriate citation. Plagiarism is a form of theft. The free exchange of ideas depends on the participants' trust that they will be given credit for their work. Everyone in an academic community must be responsible for acknowledging their use of others' words, research results, and ideas using the methods accepted by the appropriate academic disciplines.
And that's coming from the BI Code of Conduct. And I'd just like to say, Abrar, you have an excellent speaking voice in English.
Thank you.
Hey. So I chose the right person to help me. That was good, choosing at random. Maybe I'll get Abrar to do the rest of my presentation. Okay, so what can get you into trouble? It's including but not limited to all of these things: copying the work of another student, directly copying any part of another person's work, summarizing the work of another person without acknowledgement, using or developing an idea or thesis derived from another person's work without acknowledgement, excuse me. So this is really down to the fact that if you steal somebody else's idea, not just their words, but their idea, then you're putting yourself in danger of being caught for plagiarism. Because if you hand in a paper and it's talking about cryptocurrency in Nairobi among single mothers, and then somebody else hands me in a paper with the exact same topic, I'm going to say, wait a minute, that's strangely niche for two people to have the same idea at the same time. And so just stealing an idea, you listen to your friend and you think, oh, that's a really good idea for research. Yeah, if your friends had that idea, that's your friend's idea. Let's not steal ideas. What else can get you into trouble? If you use experimental results obtained by another person without acknowledgement. So what this means is you're not stealing their words, you're stealing their data. And this means maybe you take their Excel file and you represent it as being, this is my Excel file. And in that case, it's easy to see when graphs look the same, when trends look the same, when pie charts maybe look the same. So again, lecturers at BINUS have kind of become detectives because we want to protect our reputation as a good university. And so when it comes to somebody trying to subvert that or change that, we are deliberately resisting it, and we will say, no, you're not going to screw up BINUS's reputation. Another one that people frequently do, because you write so many papers in university, it's quite common to think, I can just recycle my previous assignment. It got me an A the first time, maybe I can get an A again. Well, what's going to happen first is the Turnitin will go and flag your paper. Turnitin has a very long memory. When I say memory, Turnitin checks every academic paper it can find around the world. And it says, does your paper match this paper and this paper and this paper? And it keeps doing that until it's gone through every paper in the world and said, okay, 13% of this is like other papers. So you really want to make sure that your score is as low as possible. One of the issues that we look at when it comes to plagiarism is that some phrases are going to be the same in every piece of academic work. In this research, the authors will be investigating the effects of, now we're up to 11 words, and I've used no variables, and those 11 words could be in any paper anywhere. So we need to use academic language, which means we're falling into the trap of everybody else is using academic language. So you need to be really clear that your ideas are original, your writing is original, and you're not going to get caught. So if you get caught for plagiarism, the first thing that will happen is your lecturer will look at Turnitin and they will see any score higher than 20%. First thing they will do is say to you, look, fix this. So you get basically one opportunity to go away and fix your essay and then resubmit it. Other lecturers will just say, okay, no chance, you've done it now, you intentionally committed plagiarism, and they will send you to the ethics committee. The ethics committee are very scary people because they are the reputation managers, gatekeepers of the university. So if you're at the ethics committee, the chances are you're going to be punished. Punishment can be as little as getting 0 for your assignment, or going home and saying to your parents, Mom, Dad, you know all that money you paid for BINUS? I threw it in the bin. That's not cool. Your parents are not going to be happy. Doesn't matter how rich you are. And as I said before, intentional or unintentional plagiarism is going to be treated the same. So avoiding plagiarism. How can we avoid plagiarism? So as I said earlier, people have their own academic writing style, and it's like a fingerprint or a voice or DNA. You kind of, anytime you start writing, I will read it and I will think to myself, okay, this person's writing voice is like X. And then suddenly if it becomes like Y or like Z, I start thinking, that's strange. So say, Margaret, are you there?
Yes.
Margaret, would you say you're a strong writer?
I wouldn't know about strong, but pretty good, I guess.
Okay, pretty good. And so when I hear Margaret talking, I can detect from her voice that she has a particular style. She has a particular, like in the way that she talks, she has an accent. In the way that she writes, she has an accent. And this is really hard to, it's really hard to pretend that the voice has changed. Basically, once I hear Margaret's voice academically, I will know this is her, this is her, this is her, this is her, until it's not her. And then I'll say, what's happened to Margaret's voice? So later we say the lecturer may use Turnitin.com. It's not may anymore. The lecturer will use Turnitin. It's being made mandatory in all courses. Academic English has always had Turnitin, but recently more and more courses, the S1 and the S2 courses, are moving to Turnitin. And in order to submit your work, you will have to put it through Turnitin. So it's a good idea on your first or second day of classes to say to your lecturer, Miss, Sir, do you use Turnitin? And get registered quickly. You don't want to be doing it later when you're submitting your essay. And if you're caught for plagiarism, we are going to watch you. It's kind of like once you plagiarize, or once you even are suspected of plagiarism, I will tell my department will tell your head of program. Your head of program will be having lunch with another head of program, and they'll mention it. And eventually your name won't be that well liked around campus. So why do students plagiarize? This is not me telling you as a kind of top-down thing. I'm a lecturer, you're a student, don't do this. I've done one master's and I'm doing my second master's now. And so I am a student too. I get it. I understand what stress is. And I understand that you've got a lot to do. You've got your home life, you've got your university life, you've got your social life. And you guys being young people, this isn't true for me, it's true for you. You've got an active social life. I don't. But all of those three things, family, social life, academics, they can pile on top of you. And I can see why you might want to plagiarize. So sometimes it's due to the fact that some people, their language isn't great. And they think that maybe if I just take somebody else's paper, they won't notice. Well, if your language ability is low and you use somebody else's paper, there's an automatic flag there. This person has a low academic voice and a high academic paper? I don't think so. So as I said before, academic skills, it's difficult to manage your time or note-taking. And then there's course-related factors. So a course might be seen to be difficult, particularly in your IB courses. Some of the courses that are talking about statistics and numbers might be difficult. And then you might have personal factors, like perhaps a death in the family or a divorce. Excuse me. All of these things can affect your ability to work. Benetton.
Yes.
I'm going to guess your father was really into Formula One.
No, he's not.
Where did your name come from?
Maybe from my grandfather. His name is Bennett.
Ah, interesting. Okay. I've never actually heard the name Benetton used as a name, so cool. Okay, thank you. You just popped up on the side of my screen and I thought that's an interesting name. Okay, so we're going to look at some very important skills. Citations and paraphrasing are important skills to get you out of trouble. In the chat box, I'd like you to tell me what a citation is, please. What is a citation? And that's not just Benetton, I'm asking. That's everybody. Please tell me what a citation is. Reference to the source we used, acknowledging someone else's work, a way of showing credit. These are all good answers. What does a citation look like? That's another question. When you're reading an academic paper, how do I know I'm looking at a citation? Writing the original author's name and creation. Okay, we may be confusing a citation and a reference here. If I'm looking at a citation, what does it look like? What jumps out at me? Okay, Queenie, you're a freshman leader, you should know that. And Karim says, it depends. What does it depend on, Karim?
Sorry, can I just talk? I don't want to chat.
Absolutely, I hate it when people don't talk to me, so yes.
So the citation can vary on what you're citing, I guess you can say. Whether, it's like from a website, from a book, from a research paper. Citations usually vary from like the order of what, like the author's name, the year, the page name, and the link. So that's why I said depends.
Okay, Karen, I'm going to stop you and say, do you mean a citation or a reference?
Okay, yeah, you're right. Sorry, I confused that. My bad.
That's not a problem at all, because I want to point out to everybody that that's something that 99% of people in the first year of university, they confuse the two words because they so closely match. A citation is in the text and a reference is at the end of the text. At the very, very end, when you finish, you go reference, 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 reference. But in the text, when you're writing, you might say, according to Maloney, me, 2021. So you put the surname and then brackets, you put the year. Or you could put a sentence and then have open brackets, name, comma, year, close brackets. So citations are usually indicated by, it depends if you're talking British English, brackets, or American English, parenthesis. So those are the main clue. When I look at an academic paper, I look for parenthesis, I look for brackets, and if I see those, yes, they're citations. So citations are a great way of getting you out of trouble, because the citations say to me, these aren't my words, these are somebody else's words. And I say, great. Or these are my words, but there's somebody else's idea. Great. Now, can you put into the chat box, what is paraphrasing? A theorist said basically writing the same idea but using different words. That is exactly right. Saying writing the same idea through restating a source through our own words. Good. Yep. All of these are on the nose, nailing it. It's essentially saying I'm comfortable enough to explain somebody else's words in my own words. And paraphrasing is a really clever tool to show your lecturer, not only do I understand the concept, not only do I understand an idea, but I understand it so fully that I can explain it in my own words. Sometimes when you're looking at a sentence, you just say, I can't put it any better than that. I can't write it any clearer. In that case, citation. Use quotation marks, use your parenthesis, name, year. Fine. If you think I can change this into my own words, paraphrasing, yay. So when you're doing your research, nowadays it's really easy. I'm going to sound very old, but when I did my bachelor's degree, I had to walk to a physical library. I had to pull a physical book off the shelf. I had to go to the index, look through the index. Nowadays, you guys have Google. Done, I found my source, yay. So it's a really good idea that when you find sources, you maybe write down a little piece of paper, and I do sound old school here, but keep your online research and your on paper research separate, because if your electricity goes down, how are you going to write an essay? You can write an essay because you've taken notes on what you've found online. Don't depend on having electricity all the time, on having the internet all the time. Because with this being Jakarta, quite often the power just goes for no reason. We need a plan B. And make sure that you're always going to manage your time well. Don't think, oh, I'll submit it at the last minute. No, because everything goes wrong at the last minute. So we talked before about referencing and citations. What's the difference? And it was well pointed out that referencing can change according to whether it's an essay, whether it's a thesis, whether it's a dissertation, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whether basically any source has its own form of referencing. But generally speaking, they start off with the author, the year, the title, and then the place that they were found. So maybe the URL, or maybe the journal. So referencing is a good way of saying to your lecturer, look at all the things I read. Now, don't put references in if you don't use them as a citation. Citations have to match up. So if there's 12 citations, normally there will be 12 references. You can use the same source twice, maybe, but don't just take 3 sources and say Smith, Jones, Smith, Jones, Smith, Jones. It's not going to work for you. That will just say to your lecturer, I read 2 papers. 2 papers is not good enough research to base an essay on. In your first year of academic English, we'd probably say between 5 and 7 sources is okay. In your second academic English, AE2, we would say maybe 10 or 12 sources is good. So you're going to step up in the amount of reading that you do before you write an essay. Let me just look at the chat, see if it's anything exciting. Sir, today there is a site and tool that can be used to paraphrase. If students use them, is that considered as a misconduct or not? Okay, Athira, that's a really good question, because technology is increasingly stepping in to help us, particularly if we need help with language. We've got Grammarly, we've got Turnitin as grammar software. The one thing I'll say is, before we even get to misconduct, computers are not great with generating synonyms that are used in everyday life. So if I ask the computer for a synonym for cautious, it might suggest reticent. Now, reticent is a very strangely formal word, whereas cautious is less formal. But a paraphrasing tool can't tell the difference between levels of formality of words. It just knows these are like each other. So what then happens is, if I see paraphrases that are computer generated, generally they look stiff, they look overly formal, and they use some very strange kind of 19th century words that I haven't seen in years. Well, I wasn't there in the 19th century, but basically my point here is paraphrasing tools aren't a natural voice. Is it misconduct? It depends. Did you write your entire paper with the computer guiding your language? Can you replicate? If I asked you to explain that paper to me face to face, could you do so? Because if you're using the computer to mask your language ability, then yes, it is misconduct, because you're falsely representing yourself. Then we have Karam asking same question, but instead of paraphrasing, referencing. I don't really get what you're asking, but paraphrasing instead of paraphrasing. So Karam, are you asking, can you come on camera, please, Karam, and ask the question?
No, because there's like some online stuff that like helps organize and like pretty much do the referencing for you. So in a way, like.
Okay, so you're basically talking about like the tools that are built into Microsoft Word and Mendeley and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, for those, I would say no, they're not an infringement of, they're not misconduct, they're not an infringement. But the problem with those is that in the same way that citations can change form, sometimes both the name and the year are in brackets, sometimes the name is out of brackets and the year is in brackets. The software is very inflexible when it comes to that flexibility. It can only do things in one form, and you're kind of stuck with a very formulaic system of citations and referencing. I know this because one of my other jobs is proofreading, and when I go to change a sentence around, you can't break down the citation, and it makes sentences very awkward. So although they do save a lot of time, that's the trade-off for time saved is that it's going to make your essay quite inflexible for you to edit.
Does does BINUS, I think I forgot, but does BINUS have like a specific type of referencing? Because like if I'm not mistaken, there's like Oxford referencing or like Harvard or something like that.
Yeah, for most of our courses, the system is APA. You guys being in IB, I'm pretty sure you're going to be using APA. That's the American Psychological Association, and it's now the 7th style guide. So if you look up APA 7, that's the system that we'll be using. You're right in that if you're doing robotics at BINUS ASO in Alam Sutra, they use IEEE, which is where you have a number after every a number per citation. There are different ones, but I think generally across JWC, 90% of you will be using APA. Okay, so you will be able to tell when you ask us directly. I see, okay, Thera, some tools, online help, reference for you. Yep. Yep. So time saved, but it's inflexible. This is not me being old school. I'm really in favor of technology helping us and saving us time. And I'm so jealous of you guys that I didn't do my bachelor's degree during the time of the internet. But yeah, just recognize that technology has got its trade-offs. Okay. And thank you for asking questions. I like questions. When to reference, if you're going to take someone's words directly, then we need quotations. If you're doing facts, figures, ideas, and theories, then those facts, if you say that 30% of Indonesians enjoy Indomie on a daily basis, then I want to know 30%? Where did you find that figure from? It's not that I doubt you, it's just that it's interesting that you find a number. Common knowledge does not need to be referenced. For example, the earth is round, the sky is blue, grass is generally green. K-pop is awful, I'm joking. Information rewritten in your own words. If you have taken somebody else's idea, you've paraphrased it or summarized it, then you need to be able to say where you got it from. And all of these things at the bottom, books, journals, the internet, videos, radio, TV, lecture notes, personal communications, all of these will be referenced. And more references is good references, because we want to see that you've not just built your essay on 1 or 2 sources, you've built your essay from a perspective where you've got differing opinions on an idea. And a really strong essay isn't just this person says this person agrees, this person agrees, this person agrees. That's a boring essay. I want to see an essay where people disagree, where people are finding out new things, and therefore they're disproving each other's theories. That's a great essay, because it shows that you're up to date. It shows that you are listening to different voices. So in-text citations will be found in your text, and a really good way to impress your lecturer for the first essay that you write in BINUS is to have lots of parentheses, lots of names, lots of years. Show that you're really trying hard to use the internet to your best. So it says here, we usually write down the last name or surname of the author. This can be tricky when it comes to Indonesians, who maybe are called Sutrisno, one name, and that's the name that you will use for your citation. If you're doing direct quotations with the quotation marks, we would say what page number it is after the citation. So here's an example of direct quotations, and as you can see, the first one has both the family name and the year and the page number. And when I was saying before about citations and references being inflexible through Mendeley, if you notice that the first citation, everything's within the parenthesis. The second, we've got flexibility, and that comes from writing manually instead of using Mendeley. So if we've got a long quote of more than 40 words, we indent it and we show this is a long quote. What we normally do is we drop the font size by 2 font sizes to show, hey, Mr. Lecturer, I'm not trying to take up space in my essay. All of this needs to be here. So we make it smaller. APA referencing format is a complete list of all the references at the end of the document. It includes books, journal articles that you've cited in your text. The reference page should appear at the end of your work on a separate page. This is references. This is not work cited. This is not bibliography. This is references. Always remember the S at the end, not reference. That's someone who you go to recommend you for a job. It's references. Okay, so here's an example of what a reference looks like. If it's a book, if it's a journal article, we have page numbers, we have the volume, we have the journal, we have the title of the article. So you can see the form is changing subtly for a web page. Super easy. This is actually from, this presentation is from last year. We don't even say retrieved from anymore. We can delete retrieve from. Basically, it's family name, initial, year, title, URL. No need for retrieve from. So there is help available to you. If you find that you really can't write academically, come and see us in the Language Center, and we can set you up for an English clinic. This means that we can help you with your English on a one-to-one basis, or maybe if you want to do a class with 1 or 2 friends, that's fine. Just come and see us in room 305, or send me an email, and I will write my email into the chat box now. And there's my email address if you ever need to ask any silly questions regarding the English language. Ask me any time of day. I generally don't mind silly questions because I'd rather answer a silly question than have you get something wrong. Karam raised his hand. Karam?
Sir, I have a question.
Yep.
So you know how if you citate that it's not considered plagiarism, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much do I need to citate for it to be considered as plagiarism? Because like, I'm just asking, I'm curious. Because you can't citate a whole essay.
Okay,
right.
The verb is to cite.
Cite.
So when you're citing something, generally speaking, if you're citing, I would do it sentence by sentence, and I would show that at least 70% of the work is yours and 30% is coming from other sources. So no, you can't cite an entire essay, because there's no input from you. And if you're going under 70% of your own work, then you're really leaning too hard on your sources, and you would get punished for that as well. So it's not necessarily plagiarism, it's just lazy writing, because anybody can fill up an essay with citations, but can you link them together coherently, logically to make a point? That's where your own writing has to come in and do the hard work. So eventually, too many citations will lead you into the problem of how do I link these together? So it's always better to kind of get a citation to supplement your ideas than the other way around.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome, Carol. Okay, I think that takes us to the end of the session today, which is good because my voice is going. Do you have any more questions before we finish the session?
Please, guys, if you have any question, unmute or write it in the chat box.
Or send me an email, please, because I have to go and have a quick break before we start the next session at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye. Enjoy your studies at BINUS. Hope to see you around. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you so much for the insightful information. So we have learned about plagiarism, paraphrasing, citation, references, and quotation. Now we will all move on to the okay. So I think we're almost coming to the end. So since we are coming to the end, let us first do a photo session. And okay, so please turn on your camera and smile at the camera.
Quina, are you gonna do the countdown or?
Okay, sure, wait. 3, 2. Okay. So first slide, 1, 2, 3. And second slide, which is last slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for today's session. It is over. And please don't forget we have another session at 1 p.m. In the meantime, please don't forget to eat your lunch and refresh so you're ready to learn and listen in the next session. See you guys. You can leave now. And don't forget, striving to be excellent generation, FYP BINUS, making happy.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Avel, please stay. Yeah.
We are back to, and for the second session, we have Mr. Michael Setiawan, and we were gonna continue our today's topic, which is searching, reading, and writing skills. The spotlight is yours, Mr.
Okay, thank you so much, Quina. Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope I do not disturb your break. So, before we start, can I have a very quick look at you? Can you please turn on your cam for a very quick one before we start? Margaret, Sally, Fabian, James. Alia, Gilbert. Yes. Okay, how about the others? Alia, Karem, Enrico, Melissa. Let me see your faces for a while. James. Oh, okay. Remind me on that. Okay, so how about the others? Okay. Sally, Alia, Erin, Evelyn, Srikandi, Mandy. Can I ask you for a very quick cam on? So I can see your face. Okay. Thank you. Okay then, thank you. So if you're more comfortable with your cam off, you're free, but if you wanna have your cam on to accompany me and all the FLs, we would welcome you as well. Okay, so first of all, let me introduce myself for a while. My name is Michael. My complete name is Michael Setiawan. I'm part of the Language Center together with Mark, who was here previously, and also with the other lecturers who will be teaching you after me today. So we are coming from the same unit, which is a language center. And we are responsible for Academic English 1 and Academic English 2, which you will take later on. Okay, so please be aware that you will have to take Academic English 1 and Academic English 2 as part of your study plan before you can start writing your thesis later on. Yeah. Okay. So now, you can just call me Mike or Michael. If you have any questions later on, feel free to. I think your FL has already mentioned there. Yeah, there will be Q&A session, so you can. I would actually prefer a more interactive discussion. So later, when I ask you questions, feel free to respond. So I don't feel like I am doing my podcast by my own. So please respond. So I feel like I'm really talking to you. And if you have any questions, then you can wait until the Q&A, and then we can have that question answer sessions. Okay, so let's begin. My session today for this second one is actually about, let me share my screen first then. Critical thinking. Okay, can you please confirm if you're looking at my screen or my PowerPoint on your screen? Yes?
Yes, we can. Sure.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. So today, this session is basically about critical thinking. Okay, it may not sound as academic as the first sessions about plagiarism, but this is actually about a very important skill that you will need to have when you are studying as a university student. Okay, so please keep in mind that studying in a university is different from studying in high school. Studying in high schools, and probably you are mostly spoon-fed. So you are given all the materials you need to memorize, and then you do the test. But studying in university, you'll be required to think. And think is not only about think, but think critically and analytically. For example, in academic English, for example, you will have to write an essay. Maybe back in high schools when you wrote an essay, then you just wrote. But here in academic English, you are expected to explore, to develop, to justify. You cannot just write like, oh, okay, I agree with this. Okay, I think this is good. No, you have to be able to justify, to give your reasons. And that reasons will be assessed, will be evaluated. Are you giving a very good, strong reasons? How good is your elaborations? All of those needs critical thinking. The same thing in your other courses. You will probably ask about questions that will need to explore. So instead of just, for example, what are the characteristics of this? For example, you will probably ask about your opinion, about what you think, and so on. Those will require critical thinking. And that is basically what you will learn with me this session. So before I continue, let me go with this amazing infographics from the World Economic Forum. They predict that there will be top 10 skills later on in 2025. So I think that's the time when you graduate. So by the time you graduate 2025, then these are most likely the top 10 skills which will be very needed in your work later on. As you can see here, it says analytical thinking and innovation, which is also part of critical thinking and analysis. So you start to have your critical thinking first, then you can have analytical thinking and innovation. That's the reasons why people keep saying critical and analytical thinking, because they are actually supposed to be together. Critical thinking and analytical thinking. So as you can see here, World Economic Forum has already said that you will need that critical thinking skills if you want to be successful, if you want to land a good job, if you want to get a good career, if you want to proceed with your career path. Then critical thinking is one of the most important skills that you will need to have. Okay, so that's the reasons why we are coming up with this session. not just to talk about critical thinking and you feel like, oh, okay, it's not going to be needed. No, it's going to be needed for your study. And this is actually to prepare you so that later on, once you go to work, then you are ready for your critical thinking. What is critical thinking? According to Confucius, a very old guy, study without reflection is a waste of time. Reflection without study is dangerous. What does it mean? If you just study and you don't do any reflection, for example, or you don't do any kind of thinking, then it's just a waste of time. Probably like what have happened or what has already happened in your senior high, for example, junior high, senior high. When you just memorize for your test, let me ask you, do you still remember what you have memorized? If you're honest, I would say that you will not remember, right? So again, if you try to memorize for your test, will you still remember what you have memorized? According to research, you will only remember for the next few hours. After the next few days, you will start to forget a certain percentage. After a few months, you will forget most of them. So if you just memorize without doing any thinking, then it's just a waste of time because it will not long last. In the brain, according to research, there is what you call short-term memory and long-term memory. Memorization or memorizing goes to the short-term memory, which means after a certain period of time, then it will be gone. You will not remember anymore. Okay? But reflection without study is dangerous. What does it mean? Thinking without knowledge is also difficult. It's also dangerous. Why? Because you're just going to say, sorry to use this word, but everything you say will be like a bullshit. Right? Like, for example, you're doing an argument, but you have no knowledge of what you're arguing, then you're just not going to be good at all. You're going to lose the argument. It's almost the same, for example, if you say, for example, let's say on my screen, I have Omar. So let's say Omar and I are friends. And I say, Omar, let's go to Bali for our holiday. And Omar says, no, I don't want to go to Bali. But you have never been to Bali. Why don't you want to go to Bali? No, I just don't want to go to Bali. People say Bali is hot. How do you know it's hot? You have never been there. Yeah, people say it's hot, for example. That will be an endless arguments. So arguing with people who have no knowledge is just a waste of time. There's the reasons why it says, Confucius says that you need to study, you need to know the knowledge, you need to know the materials, but at the same time, you also have to think about it. So you cannot only just study and memorize, but you need to think, use it, apply for the sake of your future. Okay? Critical thinking begins when you question beyond what is given. You want to know more. That's critical thinking. That's the reasons why I say in university, you need to apply critical thinking. For example, sometimes in my class, I don't give all the information. I share a bit of the information only with the expectation that students will ask, why is that, Mike? What's the reasons for that? That needs critical thinking. Probably in high school, you just accept. When teacher says, okay, yes, okay, yes. That's not critical thinking. What you are required is that you think beyond. Even when your professor says, okay, this, it means this. You need to think, is that right? If you need to argue with your professors, argue with your professors, that's fine. Tell them, I don't think that is right. In my opinion, it's supposed to be like this. Then you can have a discussion, not an argument, not a debate, but a discussion with your professor. So that is the point of critical thinking. So we professors or we lecturers do not expect that students are just listening to us passively, but we want students to be active, ask questions. Okay, I usually tell my students in class, like, if you ask me questions about the lessons, even if that's irritating me, for example, it will not affect your scores. I will not be subjective about that, because that is actually good. I used to get one student who kept asking me questions all the time. Mike, why is that? Mike, what's the reason for that? Mike, why don't we use this? Sometimes even some of his friends say, like, why don't you have your own sessions later with Mike? But I said that is good, because then you get more knowledge than what you're supposed to get. With the questions you ask, I will give you more answers, more knowledge. So that's the idea of critical thinking. Ask questions. Okay, when you keep asking questions, that is good. You want to know more about how something happens. You do not just accept. So when people say, yeah, that's the way it is, no, there must be a reason why. There's the reasons, for example, if you study and then, for example, people say, why are we using present tense for this? Yeah, because that's a normal one. You use present tense for that. You don't use past tense. No, that's not a good answer. A good answer will come to, we use present tense because it's about habit, for example. Okay. When you want to know what will happen if something changes, that also needs critical thinking. So basically, it requires a conscious level of processing, analysis, creation, evaluation of possible outcomes and reflection. That's critical thinking. If you're a critical thinker, you think, okay? You're willing to examine your beliefs, your assumptions and opinions and weigh them against facts. You're willing to evaluate and so on. Basically, a critical thinker is an open-minded person. Why? Because you are welcome, or you welcome all kind of possible thoughts, opinions, and you are assessing, you're evaluating, is mine correct? Is what I think the right one or not? This is one important thing. Feeding to, I'm reading the chat. Oh, this is cool. Feeding the curiosity. Yes, that's right. Feeding the curiosity, but not to the extent of being too kepo. Yeah, critical thinking is not being kepo, not being nosy. But critical thinking is trying to figure out more, but not more in terms of gossiping. Yeah. So I used to get a student who asked, so Mike, if I want to know more about this gossip, is that critical thinking? No, it's not critical thinking, because you don't need to think about gossips, right? But if it is something about knowledge, that's critical thinking. Now, critical thinkers listen very carefully, because if you're a critical thinker, you need to listen. You need to get more. So if you do not want to listen and you claim yourself to be critical, that is something wrong. Okay. How can you be critical if you don't want to accept? Okay, so you need to listen. And you will also look for evidence. Critical thinker look for evidence. You do not only accept, you do not only assume, you do not only think of your own, but you need to make sure what you think is correct. You need to justify your reasons. So for example, when I asked Omar and then Omar just said, oh, people say it's hot. But then if he can find the temperatures, for example, the normal temperatures in Bali, and it says more than 40 degrees Celsius, then that is looking for evidence. He's critical thinker, so he doesn't only believe on what people say. We need this nowadays, especially with WhatsApp and all social medias. People are spreading a lot of fake news, hawks and everything. So we need critical thinkers to assess. You do not just accept. You do not just listen. You do not just read and say, oh, okay, this is right. No. Okay, so look for evidence. That's critical thinkers. So when you are a critical thinker, then these are what you will do. These are things that you will do. Identify information, construct alternative interpretation, look for some other alternatives, willing to explore the diverse point of view or perspectives, willing to change your own belief if you feel that that is wrong, willing to ask difficult questions, and the ability to be receptive. The problem here in Indonesia is that students are trained to be good listeners. That's the reason why when I'm giving workshop for teachers, I usually tell them, teachers, please accept questions. Teachers, please do not underestimate your students. I was once observing a class, and then the teacher asked, any questions? And then there was one student who asked questions, and then the teacher says, oh, that's a very stupid question. I'm not going to answer that. No, that is discouraging. That's what makes students feel like I am not gonna ask questions. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want my teachers to say that I am stupid. And that habit will make you not a thinker. You don't want to think. Okay, so be very careful with that. Ask questions a lot of times. Critical thinkers are curious. There was one on the chat box there. They're interested in knowing all there is about the topic. They look for new and better ways to do everything. There's a reasons why critical thinking is related to analytical thinking, innovation, and all. Because you are not going to innovate if you are not critical enough, right? If you are not critical, you're just accepting and you just believe whatever it is. You are satisfied with what you get. There will be no innovation. No innovation. The reasons why we have iPhone is because Steve Jobs was a critical thinker. He didn't believe in physical keypad on the phone. The reasons why we have your thin laptop now is because of critical thinkers. If not, your laptop will just be a very thick one like long time ago. But people start to think, can a laptop be that thin? And it turns out, yes. Steve Jobs put out a MacBook Air, very light, very thin. Even Steve Jobs says that's the thickest part of the MacBook Air is still thinner than the thinnest part of the thinnest laptop at that time. That's the result of critical thinking. You want to get more and more. You're not satisfied. That's critical thinker. Okay? So what's the definitions? Basically, critical thinking is about thinking outside of the box. Sometimes people say it's a silly thing or a silly thought. But that silly thought sometimes helps a lot. Critical thinking is also divergent thinking. You're not following the same path. It's forming logical inferences. You're taking logical conclusions, your implications, and it's limitless thinking. You keep thinking all the time. And it involves higher level thinking. What is higher level thinking? Evaluating, analyzing, synthesizing, forming opinions, and so on. And that is according to Bloom's taxonomy, which is a very common types of taxonomy or thinking thoughts. So the lowest level of learning or thinking is knowledge. And this is where you go for memorization. So if you just memorize, basically it's the lowest level of thinking skills. It goes up here, up to creating, innovating, evaluating, and so on. So that's what you need to do. You do not just memorize, but then you need to start understanding. When you start to understand, then you start to apply. And then you start to analyze, identify problems, and so on after you apply. And then you start to synthesize, try to see if there's any possible alternatives and so on. And then you start to evaluate. What might happen if we try this? What might happen if then we do this? That's how thinking should be. Okay? So it's a hierarchy, and it should go from simple, which is memorization, to complex, which is evaluating problems. Okay? Now, I don't know if you have heard or you have got this kind of activity, but let's see. Can you, if you can use your own paper and pencil, can you try to connect all of these 9 dots in just one stripe? So that means you need, once you use your pencil or your pen to draw the line, then you have to keep drawing until you connect all the 9 dots. So you cannot, you cannot stop and then try again from the very different lines or different dots. So try to connect all the 9 dots using 4 straight lines in just one attempt, one strike. Can you? I'll give you probably 1-2 minutes to try, and then I'll show you the answer. Okay, I hope you start to be curious, you start to feel like, how can I do this? How can I connect all of these 9 dots in just 4 lines and 1 strike? Okay, so I'm gonna give you the answers. That's the answers. That's the answers. What is interesting is out of the box. If you start from here, for example, or anywhere you start, and then you finish here, and you try to connect this, you will lose this. This one will be not connected. So what you need to do, you need to go outside of the box in order to connect them all. Remember, the instruction doesn't say that you cannot go outside of the box. The instruction just says try to connect 9 dots with 4 lines and 1 strike. That's it. No matter how you try, no matter what you do, it's up to you as long as you follow the idea. 9 dots connected with 4 lines and 1 strike. So if you are willing to take extra risk, go outside of the box, then you can connect all of them. But if you're not willing, and you just try to connect within all of these 9 dots, you will not be able to. There will always be 1 dot left out from the lines. So the idea is that this critical thinking exercise wants to ask you to think outside, take the risk. Okay, why is critical thinking important? Because it underlies reading, writing, listening, speaking, basic elements of communications. Like I said again, people say, now you're listening to me. If you just accept and believe whatever I say, then you're not critical. But if you assess that and then you ask, like, is that right? How can writing, for example, be an underlying one? Then you are a critical thinker. You think. Critical thinking plays an important part in social change. Like I said again, innovations will not happen without critical thinking. Problems in a country will not be able to be solved without critical thinking. So critical thinking is needed to make changes. Institutions in any society are the products of critical thinking. All the laws, all the bills, all the rules, regulations that you have nowadays is the result of critical thinking. Why do we have to wear masks when we go outside? Result of critical thinking. People start to think, how can we avoid this COVID-19? Can we go outside and still feel a bit safe? That's critical thinking. Why do we have 3 different types of vaccination nowadays? Inactivated virus, vector virus, mRNA, or mRNA, Pfizer and Moderna. That's part of critical thinking. Pfizer and Moderna, mRNA is a very new one. That's part of critical thinking. So everything happens because of that. Plays a major role in technological advances. Like I say, innovation. Steve Jobs had been proving a lot of that. Bill Gates and so on. Windows that you use nowadays, Mac OS that you use nowadays, that's part of critical thinking. Now we are using Windows 10. People in Microsoft have been thinking a lot about this, and then now they are going to bring out a new Windows called Windows 11. They're changing here and there. That's part of critical thinking. They don't feel satisfied. They want to get more. What makes it better, better, and better? That's critical thinking. Blazes a path to freedom from half-truths and deceptions, from fake news, from hoax, from all the lies that comes to you. That's critical thinking. You are free from those lies when you think. in the beginning of COVID-19, I got a lot of news coming to my WhatsApp, all about scary things. Even they say like washing your hair improperly can make you infected or contracted of COVID-19. I asked my friend who sent it, and it was a girl. I said, "Do you believe it?" And say, "I don't know. That makes me afraid. I don't want to wash my hair, or maybe I should go to salon." But that's the idea. I say, how can it be? If it is so, then all people in the world will get COVID-19 because everyone goes out. So if you wash your hair, the water comes down, it gets to your mouth, for example, then you are infected, then everyone will get infected. But that's not the case. And that doesn't happen. I say, so that's a problem. You need to be critical in order to do or to take the right action. How can one become a critical thinker? When you ask questions to yourself and to others. By assessing statements and arguments, you do not only accept, but you're thinking, you're judging, you're evaluating. Is this correct? Sometimes in the class, on purpose, I give false information to my student. I give a wrong example to my students on purpose. But of course, I make corrections after that. I tell them that it's wrong, it should be like this, and I did it on purpose. But the reasons why I gave them wrong example or false information in the class, because I want to make sure they think. So if they do not think, they will just accept, then they will stay quiet. They don't say like, "Mike, I think that is wrong." So that is how I know that my students are thinking or not. When they assess what I say, that means they think. If not, they will just stay quiet until I make corrections before we end the class. Developing a sense of observation and curiosity. Becoming interested in finding new solutions. There's the reasons in BINUS we are very fond of innovations. So everything needs innovation all the time. Examining beliefs, assumptions, opinions. Sometimes what you believe may not be correct. There's the reasons why you need to listen and accept and see, assess. Developing a thinker's vocabulary, listening carefully to others, observing with an open mind, making assertions based on sound logic, sharing ideas with others, becoming an open-minded listener and reader, engaging in active reading, active listening. What does it mean, active reading and active listening? It means you're not only reading and listening passively, but you're trying to be active. You ask questions, you think about it. So you do not only listen and say, yes, 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 accept, accept, accept. No. But you listen and you think and then you ask. That's the thing. Let me share a bit of my story. Critical thinking is not a very famous topic. Even from time ago, it hasn't been a very famous topic in school. So until I finished my senior high school, I had never learned anything about critical thinking. I had never been trained about critical thinker. So back in school, I only got knowledge, information, and that's it. Teachers were very strict about questions. Teachers didn't even want to accept questions sometimes. So I was not trained as a critical thinker until I got to university. When I was in university, I met one professor, and then he asked me, "We have to be critical. Mike, are you critical?" I said, "I don't know. I don't think I'm critical enough. So how can I be critical?" I asked him. Then he invited me to his office room. There was there's a bookshelf with a lot of books. He loves reading. So there was a bookshelf with a lot of books. And then he asked me, "Mike, I want you to take 3 books, random picking, okay? Random picking. I want you to take 3 books." So I took 3 books randomly. And then he said, "Okay, now randomly as well, open any pages of those 3 books." So I opened all 3 books, different pages. And then he asked me these questions. "What do you see on those pages?" This is interesting. for me at least. If you read a book, there will always be margin, empty space, right? So on one page, for example, there would always be margin of empty spaces. All the 3 pages that are open from 3 different books, no empty spaces, no margin, no blank margins at all. Why? Because he wrote in all those spaces. And interesting enough, what he wrote started with critical thinking. He started to criticize. Impossible, not true, wrong, bullshit, and all the stuff. That's saying that this is all wrong. But this is the most important thing. He didn't stop with just being critical. He tried to analyze. So when he say impossible, why not like this? This is not true. According to this, it should be like this and so on. This is wrong. We can do it this way, for example. That's analytical. So you're not only critical, but analytical. So that happens. And then I say to him, Prof, can I go with more books and then try to see if you do the same thing? And I say, okay, open all 5 books, randomly pick. So I chose another 5 books. And then I open all different pages, just the same. So I say, do you do this to all your books? And he said, yes. That's the idea of critical thinking and analytical thinking. So what he did, whenever he reads, he got on the 3 stages. First reading, he make a very quick reading. Second one, he tried to criticize. He read again from the very beginning, criticize all the things. The third one, he analyzes, he evaluates what he criticized. That's what he said to me. So his lesson to me is just very simple. Mike, you want to be critical? One thing, never believe anything. When you don't believe, then you are criticizing it. Never believe it. Even with the book that you read, even with the lecturer talking to you, don't believe them. Don't believe us. Why? We are also humans. We make mistakes. We have our subjective view. So what you need to do is you need to balance us. You need to check on our belief. You need to make sure that what you get is right. And that is your rights. You pay for this. So you need to be critical. You do not just accept. So that's the very first thing. Do not believe anything you get. There's a reason why books come with different editions. Books of the same title, the same topic, the same authors may come with different editions. One reason is because the authors realize there is something that should be added to the book. It might be revision, it may be clarification, it may be additional information. That's the reasons why there is second edition, third edition and all. So critical thinking starts with not believing. And then take another step forward, analyzing. Let me give you illustrations. For example, when you are eating, okay, when you're eating, and then you start with one bite or one slurp, and then you start to feel like, something is wrong here, something is missing here. That's critical. You're criticizing it. You don't just accept. You try to criticize. Something is wrong here. What is missing? When you start to analyze, try again, you say, I need some chili. I need some salt. I need some pepper. That's analytical. You're analyzing what can be done to make this better. That's analyzing. Take a look at all kinds of food industries nowadays. If they are just selling the same thing, they're going to die very soon. Take a look at now probably the most, I don't know if it is still popular, but I think the most popular one of the most popular snacks that we have nowadays is croffle, right? croissant waffle, croffle. And then everyone starts to make the same thing. Croffle here, croffle there, and so on. Right? Bakehouse, Bakerboo, Bakerman, whoever they are. All croffles. Dunkin' Donuts came up with a different idea. Droffle. Dovel, right? Donut waffle. So that's innovations. That comes from critical thinker. Okay, we make croffle, but then we need to innovate. We need to provide something new. So if then people will try from us. That needs critical thinker and analytical thinker. A lot of times, Indonesian people or Asian in general, because we are not in Asia, we are not taught to be critical at schools. There's a reason if you're familiar with the terms tiger parenting. Parents are FL, sorry, Quina, do we have time? How long do I have before we end this session?
You still have 15 minutes, 14 minutes.
Okay, I'll take 5 to 10. Okay, thank you. Please remind me after 10 minutes. So we can have 5 minutes for Q&A. Now, like I said again, in tiger parenting is one wrong concept. I'm very sorry to say this, but this is a wrong concept of parenting. Why? Because tiger parenting in Asia is about discipline. Children are not allowed to say no. Children are not allowed to say differently. Children are not allowed to ask, complain, or anything. So, for example, when your parent says, okay, Abrar, this holiday we are going to Bali. Like it or not, you have to go. You don't like Bali, still you have to go. Because your parents have already said so. Right? So that's a normal thing. My friend from Australia came one day, and then he came with his family. So I met them one day, and then we agreed to go somewhere together. So my friend, the father, told the children, okay, guys, okay, kids, today, let's go to the malls. I would assume they would just, okay, they would agree with that, okay, and so on, even though they don't like it. But then interesting, because then they started to complain. Not complain in a way that, but complain critically. Why should we go to the mall again? And then the father started to have a discussion. Why? What's wrong with going to the mall? We've been going to the mall for several times already. And it's just the same things. We have the same shops, the same restaurants and all the things. Then the father started to figure out, okay, so what do you want then? Why don't we go to the zoo? I want to see the animals here in Jakarta. Why do you want to see the animals? Aren't they the same? And then one kid started to say, the oldest one, but there might be some different animals, right? That might be special for Indonesia. Oh, okay, let's go to the zoo then. That's a good thing. So you're not only coming out with the concept, okay, I accept, but you bring up something new. So that's what I believe as a good parenting. So if later on you want to be parents, you want to have kids, then start to be having discussion with your children, because that train them to be critical thinkers. Okay, so unfortunately, like I said, in Asia we are very critical and analytical, but not in a good one, not in the right fields. We are not critical and analytical in the fields of academics. We are not critical analytical in the fields of work and responsibilities. We are not critical and analytical in the field of innovation, but we are very critical and analytical when we eat, when we watch movies, when we see situations around us, right? How many of you watching movies while complaining? What kind of sin is this? Why is he the main character? Why is the story like this? And then you try to analyze, oh, it should be like, oh, why should be Vin Diesel? Why not just Dwayne Johnson, for example, as the main character? Why is the Harry Potter Daniel Radcliffe? Why not somebody else, for example? You are critical, you are analytical in those fields. When you eat, Oh, it doesn't taste good. When you drink, oh, nothing special here. You're critical, you're analytical. Okay, in a different kind of fields. So start from now. Please use your critical thinking, your analytical thinking, which you actually have in the right fields, in your academic, in your study, in your work, in your innovation and all. Okay. So my final words, critical thinking is a higher level thinking. Requires you to think outside of the box. Jobs require critical thinking nowadays. And it is actually a very good one. Let me share you one story before we end with the Q&A. So long time ago, I was invited because of my speaking skills. I was invited by a group of students demonstrating in front of the House of Representatives. So they have been demonstrating for 2 days. And then one day they invited me, Mike, do you want to join us? I said, okay, what do you want me to do? Be a speaker, be the orator. Okay, I say, one thing, are you guaranteed my safety? Yes, you're going in and out safely, all intact, no problems. Okay, let me take a look at what you have done. And then I look at what they have done for 2 demonstrations or 2 strikes that they have already did. And then finally I say to them, no, I'm not going with you. I agree with your movement. I agree with what you think. I agree with your opinion. I agree with your message, but I am not going to follow you. I'm not going to go there. Why? They got so mad. One student was so mad. He even hit the table. Why, Mike? Are you being a coward now? I say, no. Simple. 2 days I've seen on the newspapers. You bring or you took down the gates of the House of Representatives. And then they say, yes, we need to do that. We need to show our power. I say, stupid with the power. One question, you bring down the gates. They're going to build the gate again. But my question is, whose money are they going to use? My money, your money. So if you claim like they're using your money for corruptions, then what is the same thing that you're doing? You're bringing down the gate and then they're going to build again. That's just a waste of money. My money, our money goes for nothing. That's why I say your movement is wrong. And then finally they asked me, okay, so what should we do? Then we discuss about that. So that is the concept of critical thinking, analytical thinking. You agree with what they do. Oh, sorry, you agree with their message, but you don't agree with what they do. Then you come up with something else. Why don't we do this? And they did that. And it was more impactful. So that's the idea of critical thinking. Okay, so I'm going to end this. So, okay, because I've got my message from your FL. Okay, do we have time for Q&A or my time is up?
Yes, we do have time, sir. So thank you so much,
Okay.
Jeff, for the very insightful information, Mike. So we have learned
Thank
about
you.
critical thinking, how can one do critical thinking, evaluating, and how to think out of the box of this taxonomy. Now we will move on to the Q&A session in case any of you have a question. Let's welcome Annabelle, who will be helping us with the Q&A session. Go ahead, Annabelle.
Yes, please, freshmen, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in your chat box, or you can also raise your hand.
Okay, maybe while we will still waiting for the questions to come up, I have a question for Mike.
Feel free.
How can we improve our critical thinking if let's say we want to be better in a certain organizations or in classes, doing the brainstorming ideas and anything?
Okay, very nice questions, because organizations always needs critical thinking to innovate, because if not, you're just running, we call it an autopilot system, right? It's as simple as this. When you try to evaluate what you have already done, and then you try to look for different alternatives, that is one way of doing critical thinking, analytical thinking in an organization. Because if we are talking about established organization, for example, not a new one, yeah, It's been running for quite some time. There is an autopilot system. Just like in BINUS, for example, we don't have rectors, we don't have directors, we don't have head of program. Program can still run. You can still get your lessons. Lectures can still teach you. But then, how long will it stand? Right? Just the same thing. Now you have laptops, for example, Windows 10 or MacBook. Can it run for 10 years, 20 years? Yes, it can. But then you will have just the same features, no changes, no innovations. So the simplest idea again, try to see what you have already done in your organization. Try to evaluate and try to look for some alternatives. If I do it this way, what will happen then? Is it going to be more interesting? Is it going to attract more people? Is it going to improve our skills, for example? So I think that is a very simple one that I can share. I hope that answers the questions.
Thank you so much, Mike.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yes, we have one from the chat box.
Oh, okay.
How do we implement critical thinking in an unexpected time? And how do we deal with disagreements between member in a tech situation?
Okay, can you explain what do you mean by unexpected time?
Maybe Diana wants to unmute herself.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So it's basically when you have, like, for example, a project, you have to have a plan, right? And there's a plan A, plan B, plan C, and so on. And sometimes things don't go according to the plans, and sometimes you didn't even think that something wrong is gonna happen. So how do you implement critical thinking in that situation?
Okay. Actually, when you have already got your plan A, B, C, then that's part of your critical thinking and analytical thinking, right? Because you are open for all kinds of alternatives. But then, like I said again, and as you say, sometimes plan A might not work, and then you move to plan B, and then suddenly you think that plan B doesn't work perfectly as well, then you try to move to plan C. The reasons why you move from one plan to another plan is because of critical thinking, right? You're evaluating. You don't just give up. Oh, it doesn't work that as planned. Okay, that's fine. As long as we finish this program, as long as we finish this. No. But you try to implement your critical thinking. You evaluate. What is actually wrong here? Okay, if then we move to another plan, what should we do to counter this part? How to deal with this problem? Are we going to do this one, or are we going to go from that way? Like, for example, a long time ago, I was involved in a student organization as the advisor. And then they prepare all the programs, outdoor programs. Unfortunately, it had been raining for quite some time. And then they asked, what should we do then? Okay, let's go with plan B. But plan B is not interesting. How to make it interesting? Okay, let's think about this again. If we do this, what will happen? How about if we try to get this one? How about we do this one? Then that becomes more interesting. So how do we implement critical thinking? When you evaluate, when you try to assess and try to see for alternatives, that one way. And how do we deal with disagreements between members? That is difficult. Critical thinking needs two-sided. That means you need to be critical, but that other members should also be critical. So if you have disagreements, but that member is not critical enough, and they are stubborn, what I usually do, I back off. I'm not gonna waste my time arguing with people like that. But then if disagreement happens because both of you are critical, then there would always be time that you come up with the same agreement. Why? Because critical thinkers are always open-minded. You keep discussing. I got like I said, once when I was a student, I involved in one organization, and then my best friend was the chairman or the leader of the organization. One day we encountered a problem, and I got in a heated debate with my friend. Believe it or not, for just that one single issue, we debated for 3 hours. But the reasons why I debated or why I discussed with him, because I realized that he was critical, he was open-minded, he was ready for a feedback. That's the reasons why I kept pushing with my arguments, and he kept pushing with his arguments. But then after discussing for 3 hours, we came to the middle and we said like, oh, okay, that makes sense, you know. Why don't we just do this together? Okay. So when you're open-minded, then you're open for any kind of possibilities. There would always be time that you will meet in the middle with all possibilities. So if you have a disagreement with a friend, but then your friend is too stubborn and not open-minded, forget it, just leave it. You won't be able to change people, right? There's no way you can change people. So why do you have to waste your time and energy for that person? I hope that answers the end.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question.
Okay.
I'll read it for you. I had
but by the way, is Dian satisfied with the answer?
all right.
Oh, she is missing. Okay, can we go to the next questions?
All right. This person has some issues with the stakeholder of their partner in one of the organizations where he is in. The problem grew worse after that. So how can he use critical thinking to solve problems if they have to make a quick decision while under pressure?
Okay, thank you. Who's the question coming from?
Farhan.
Okay, Farhan. Now, the problem here is that quick decisions under pressure. If you are having the habit of critical thinking, analytical thinking, then it's not a problem. I've been experiencing making decisions under pressure and within a very short period of time. Like I said, once I was being the advisor for this student organization, we went outside for a camp, and then there were a lot of quick decisions that we got to make in just a matter of minutes. But then because I work with these students who have been very critical, analytical, they keep evaluating possibilities, they keep discussing, then it's very simple and very easy to solve. The problem happens when critical thinking is not the habit. The reasons why meeting happens for a long time, well, actually it's just a simple meeting that can happen in 1 or 30 minutes or 1 hour, is because people are not critical. I've been in a meeting that happens for like 2-3 hours, while actually it can be done in just 30 minutes. Why? Because in that meeting, people are not critical. They don't want to evaluate, they don't want to assess possibilities. And then they keep talking about jokes and everything. And even if they evaluate, they try to express their opinion, sometimes it makes no sense. When that kind of meeting happens, trust me, you will not come up with the solutions within a short time. So my point is just that you need to create that habit of critical thinking, because solving problems is actually about evaluating, assessing outcomes. If we do this, what will happen? If we try to implement another one, what will happen? It's about trial and error. Critical thinking is about trial and error. But then the point is simple. If you are a critical thinker, let's say you're a critical thinker, then you evaluate all possible problems. You try to come up with all possible alternatives. Then basically you will be able to find one best solution. Like I said again, the problem happens because we are not used to it. We are not used to think critically. That's the reasons why, for example, I ask questions in the class. a lot of students are going expressionless, you know. They do not think. They're somewhere else. You know, their body is there, their physical body is there, but their thought, their spirit, their soul are wherever, somewhere else. And that happens because of that. I used to have one class with a lot of exchange students. Discussions happens very quickly. We got one point there, and then suddenly another student came up with another point. Another student came up with another student came up with another. Even sometimes I got to extend the class because then they still wanted to have this discussion coming in. So that is actually the point. The reason you need to have the habit of critical thinking, develop it, use it all the time, always assess for possible problems, always evaluate, always come up with possible alternatives, possible solutions. That's what we do in BINUS. In my unit, Language Center, for example, we keep evaluating our academic English lessons. We keep evaluating these sessions, P-Day, the FYP here. We keep evaluating all the solutions that we have, like English Clinic and so on, how to make it better all the time. Getting feedback from here and there, try to see again. And we cannot do it for a long time. We need to make quick decisions because then we have 1 year period. So we need to make a very quick decisions. But then I'm very lucky because those people I work with are very critical. So in our discussions, our meeting always happens very quick because we really go to the point. We keep discussing, coming up with alternatives and so on. And people are prepared. When they come up with the meeting, they know what they are going to think. They know what they're going to say. Not like when they come to the meeting and they start thinking, oh yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's think together then. What can we do? Yeah. That takes a long time. So before the meeting, what I usually do together with my friends, with my colleagues, we share all the information. Okay, this is the problem, prepare. So when they come to the meeting, they're well prepared. Mike, I saw this on the internet. In that university, they tried this one. And then the other one said, oh, okay. But then that's a problem. That university applied the same thing, but then they encountered this problem. Okay, so if we are going to apply that in our university, what can we do then so that we don't have the same problems? Okay, so everyone comes with that. That's the reason why lecturers usually say, okay, students, before class, please read your materials, read your books, read your pre-reading materials, your handouts before the class. With the assumption, when you get to the class, we are discussing. But a lot of times when teachers, lecturers come to the class, okay, have you read your books? Right? That happens all the time, right? Or have you read your books? Wait. Which one should I read? When that happens, trust me, your class will not be about discussing anything. In the end, you will just accept whatever your lecture comes. Okay? So I hope that answers your question, Farhan. I think we have already passed the time, so I'm giving it back to FL.
Yes, thank you for answering, sir. Farhan says thank you also. And that wraps up our Q&A session. I will return this session to Krina.
Okay, thank you once again, sir, for answering the questions. And also thank you for your help, Annabelle. And since we're coming to an end, let us first do a photo session. So please, everyone, turn on your camera and smile at the camera. Okay, everyone, please get ready and I will begin with the first slide. Okay, first slide, 1, 2, 3. Now move on to the last slide, second slide, 1, 2, 3. Okay, everyone.
Okay. Quina, can you please send me the one for my evidence later?
Okay.
The picture.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I hope you are going to be critical thinker, analytical thinker, starting from your first semesters, so then you can succeed by the time you graduate. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day. Have a nice time. Have fun. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your life. And bye-bye.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Mike, for presenting today.
Yep.
And for session, please don't forget we have another session at 1 p.m. Don't forget to eat your lunch and have a rest so you'll be ready to learn everything in the next section. See you there, guys. See you there, guys. Bye. You may leave.
Okay, FL, I'm just gonna make it quick.